Hello, everyone. Welcome. For those of you that do not know me, my name is Lisa Dion. I am the creator of Synergetic Play Therapy and the founder and president of the Synergetic Play Therapy Institute. And I am welcoming you to an hour, a very important special hour. I have with me a special guest, Dr. John Demartini, who is not only my mentor, but also was the gentleman that changed my life 12 years ago, giving me permission to follow my dreams, awaken an inspired vision inside of me, and ultimately helping me get to where I am today. For those of you that are not familiar with Dr. John Demartini, he is one of the leaders, if not the leader in the world on human behavior. He is a human behavior specialist. He travels the world and teaches almost every single day of his life, educating and helping people understand not only why they do what they do, but more importantly, how to have an inspired life. His journey began as a chiropractor, which he will allude to in the interview, and he will also talk about his journey to helping him arrive to where he is now today. So in this next hour, please join me as we talk specifically about mission, vision, gratitude, money, what it takes for therapists in particular to live an inspired life and to give themselves permission to access the dream in their hearts and really go for it. So thank you for spending the next hour with us, and I hope you have something to take notes with. So welcome, Dr. John Demartini.
All right.
Thanks for being here in this interview.
Thanks for having me on the podcast, webinar, whatever we're describing this as.
Yeah, exactly. So John, many of my students have heard me talk about you before, and you and I first crossed paths 12 years ago. And it was at a time in my life when I was really struggling. I was struggling as a therapist, struggling as a mom, struggling as a partner. And your book, The Gratitude Effect, landed in my lap, as they say. And there was something about it that was so meaningful for me that as soon as I could, I was on a plane to see you and attend your breakthrough experience, which is your 2-day course that you do. And John, I can say hands down that weekend you changed my life. In 2 days, you changed my life. You changed the trajectory of my life. You changed my belief in myself. You gave me a glimpse of what was possible for me. And so thank you. First of all, I know I say that to tell you thank you a lot for that, but that is an ongoing thank you to you for changing my life.
Thank you.
Yeah. And it was also the beginning of me giving myself permission to do what I love and to create what feels meaningful in my heart, which was ultimately the creation of Synergetic Play Therapy, which is all my students that are watching right now is what they are now learning and studying. So the other thank you is, John, without our paths crossing, I also wouldn't have created the very thing that is inspiring so many that have joined us today. So I felt inspired to ask you to join me and to have a conversation. I would love to share with therapists really what it takes to live an inspired life and what that means and what it means to have a sense of purpose and to have a sense of vision and what gets in the way, because I know right now with everything going on in the world, I know there are a lot of people that feel lost and they feel overwhelmed and they're questioning a lot. And so I felt like this was the perfect time to bring you on and ask you to dialogue with us. So that's where I want to start. I want to start with just asking you to talk a bit about vision. You talk about how important it is to have a vision. What does that even mean?
Okay, cool.
Mm-hmm.
There's an old proverb, I think everybody's probably familiar with it. Those with a vision flourish and those without a vision perish.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I've heard that since childhood, but I can see now over the decades of working how true that is. I see that in corporations, I see that in governments, I see that in individuals, and even in sport teams that I've had the opportunity to work with. So vision is clarity of what is deeply meaningful to you that serves others. I believe that we have a sensory and motor cortex for a reason. A sensory cortex is for receiving rewards in life, and the motor cortex is for providing service. I call it the serve and deserve components of the brain. And you've heard me mention values before, but it's been my observation, and what the research points to, that when people are really living authentically and congruently and with integrity towards what they really, 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 really value most, what they are spontaneously, not even consciously dedicated, they're just doing it. They love doing it. The blood glucose and oxygen does go into the forebrain. And that forebrain has connections into the visual 5 and 6 areas of the brain. And it takes in and associates visual experiences to create a composite image of what you really want to do. And I've seen people who are living in lower priority things, not accessing vision. And I've seen when people get back onto priorities and living by real priorities, really important things, that comes online. I've seen it. So the vision is a confirmation and a feedback to let us know when we're authentic. And the second we are authentic and doing something that is truly deeply meaningful, really priority, really important to us, we see it in our mind's eye.
Mm-hmm.
There was a book that came out called The Mind's Eye back in the 70s. And I remember reading that many years ago. And I really believe that is available to all of us if we actually give ourselves permission to be ourselves. But we have such a pressure to fit in and conform and subordinate and live in the shadows of people, which clouds the clarity of what that real calling and vision is, that we sometimes brain offload and give responsibilities to others to make decisions for us instead of go within. Mm-hmm. But deep inside, there's always a knowing, a real yearning to want to be ourselves. I've asked people by the millions, how many people want to be loved and appreciated for who they are, and every hand goes up. And who you are is the authentic you, and the authentic you is an expression of what you value most and what is truly most intrinsically called inside you to deliver to the world. And I've also asked millions of people, how many of you want to make a difference in the world? But how are we going to make a difference fitting in and conforming and doing what everybody else does? We only make a difference when we actually stand out and are willing to go our unique path in our own unique hierarchy of values towards some objective that's the most meaningful to us. Mine was teaching. And I did see a vision when I was 17. And not everybody sees that vision right off the bat. And so they go, well, you got it, but I don't get it. But the moment you live by priority, that you build momentum and you gain confidence and you start to awaken that vision inside us. And the vision is not a narcissistic thing. The vision has to have a balance of narcissism and altruism. It has to have a contribution component to be inspiring. Because we don't have an inspiring life unless we're making some sort of contribution, making a difference in other people's lives, whether it be our children or our loved ones or our family or community or city or state or nation or world, however big the game is. We feel that I feel that that's an important component, is making a contribution. So finding out what is it the world really needs, caring enough about humanity to find out what it really needs, caring about yourself enough to find out what is really deeply meaningful and inspiring to you, and find out where those two circles overlap, that Vesica Pisces in the center of those two. Where do they lap? Because there's your niche. And when you find that, and as a therapist, as a person who's caring about human beings, and knows when they're doing something that's deeply meaningful and making a difference in their lives, how rewarding that is. And keeping records of that. I keep on a daily basis a comment feedback from all my clients around the world. I mean, I get emails every day, and their thank you letters coming in every single day. And I document them and keep records on them because it's a feedback as a guidance to let me know that I'm making the progress that I'm making, and metricing the progress of making that difference. And I think what that does is it keeps inspiring and modifying and tweaking the vision to keep it current with the market needs and my own needs as I evolve and as the market evolves. So it's not something that's necessarily set in stone. You know, this is it, and I got to find it. It's an incrementally momentum building clarification process to the degree of your authenticity. And every time you're authentic, it just keeps reminding you and keeps unfolding in front of you and polishing you towards what's truly most inspiring to you in your life. So I've seen people, when they get on priority, they wake it up. And when they get off priority, they close it down. And that's the closing of the vision down is not a bad thing. It's a feedback to let you know you're going in a direction that's not authentic. That's all. And whenever I've done that, and I've had that too, and momentarily couldn't see my own vision when I've gone off on fantasies. The amygdala likes to go off on impulses and instincts, pleasures and pains. You know, it wants to distract us. And we don't have a vision down there. We have the vision in the forebrain, the executive center. And if we get off of priority, we go down there, we lose our vision. And then we create symptoms that occupy space and time in our mind. And they're reminders to let us know somehow we've lost our vision. Let's go back to priority. I cannot emphasize how important prioritization is on a daily basis. It's the key to vision.
So we'll keep going with what you're saying. So talk a little bit more about prioritization. I'll keep following that.
The word a priori, which is a philosophical term, was an idea that there's knowledge not from an extrinsic source that we induced through our journey, but that we have, as Immanuel Kant said, we have this intrinsic knowing and knowledge that gives us the representation in space and time. And a priori was where we got priority come from. And it originally was not plural, priorities, it was priority. And it was, in the Christian construct, it was a divine revelation coming through us, wakening us in our heart to do something that is truly a calling that's inspiring, that wants to contribute our special uniqueness to the world. And so when we go on to highest priority, the thing that's most important, the thing that is the end in mind, the chief aim, the primary objective of life, and stick to what's really most important, the visual centers come online, the executive governance and execution of the vision comes online, the strategic planning comes online, self-governance comes online, we master our lives. So if we don't fill our day with high priority actions that inspire us, well, our day fills up with low priority distractions that don't. And it's designed that way. It's not a mistake. Entropy takes over anything that's not organized. And so it's our responsibility, because nobody's getting up in the morning and dedicating their life to our priority. In fact, everybody's projecting their priority onto us. And if we let the world dictate our destiny, we're going to be distracted and disempowered and scattered and trying to do multitasking instead of super tasking or single tasking. But if we get to priority and we delegate lower priority things and give ourselves permission to do the highest priority things, amazing things. I don't know if this is something that would be helpful. I think it will be, but I'd love to share something that really changed my career.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, because some therapists are single, they're single operators. Some have maybe an assistant that helps them. Some have a team of therapists. There's different scales. But I just want to share what I did, because I started out in the health field, and I started in 1982 with my practice, and I was doing everything. I did everything. I then had an assistant and started doing administrative stuff, because I felt I was, not that it wasn't important, I just felt like I was going to study to do the healing arts, but I'm now bogged down doing administrative work. And I didn't like that. And I was frustrated and I'd get angry about it. And so I went out and got a book by Alec McKinsey, The Time Trap. You know, I've mentioned this book before.
That's a great book.
And I read this book really thoroughly, and I underlined it, and I made bent pages and summarized it. And I did one exercise that I will encourage every therapist to do, because it will help you reclaim your vision. It'll help you reclaim your power. It'll help you free yourself up to do what you love doing, which is making a difference in people's lives and not getting bogged down. And it'll produce more income for you. So what I did is I read this book, I summarized it, and I got a piece of paper out. So maybe whoever's listening, if they would like to do that, it would probably be to their advantage, and write these things down. So I put this piece of paper down and I put 5 lines in it, 6 columns. So I had 6 equally spaced columns across the page, about whatever it is, 1.5 inch column. The first column, I wrote down every single thing that I did in a day. And I did as honest an inventory and evaluation of what I did in a day that I could think of. And I thought of everything that I might do in a day over about a 3-month period. Because some things I do it once a week, sometimes I do it twice a week, sometimes I do it every other week, sometimes I do it 3 times a day. I just wanted to write down every single thing that I might spend time on in a day over a 3-month period on that first column. And there's a lot of stuff. There's not quite 150 things there, but just under 150. And I was looking at, and as I was writing it, I was looking at myself and I was going, I can already see right now that I'm doing a lot of stuff that's not really my specialty and my training, and it's beneath what I really want to do. And I was majoring in minors and minoring in majors, and I could see it as I was writing it, but I was still doing it. I then divided it all up into both private, at home, and public business, or business, personal and professional, you might say. And I divided them up. When I got through that, I realized that I already am in my way. I'm doing low priority stuff. And there's no way I can be inspired doing that, because I'm out of my executive center. So I'm doing stuff I don't want to do. And I could hear inside my head, but I should do that. I need to do that. I got to do that. I have to do that. I could hear all the imperative languages. In fact, that's where I learned about the imperative languages. That's where it started. About all the shoulds, all the conforming that I'm supposed to do. That's what you're supposed to do, should do, ought to do it. But there's only a handful of things I really, really, really love doing out of that list. So I made that list. Then I made in the second column, I went down and I did as honest evaluation, extrapolating as possible. How much does it produce per hour? And I based the idea that if I'm making a difference in somebody's life and I'm serving them, then they're willing to pay for that service because it means something to them. I'm really filling in a value for them. So I made it on how much does it actually produce? How much is it actually serving and producing an income that people will exchange for it in a sustainable, fair exchange, equitable way? How much is that producing? And I did the best on that. And I realized that when I'm doing exams, it's $125 for 10 minutes. That's times 6. 6 times 120, is $720 or something. And then I did all the things that I did, reports, $400 an hour. Actual office visits, $1,500 an hour. And I broke it all down to what is narrative, report of findings, 0. I wasn't even charging for it. I'm going, wow, I'm spending all this time. I'm not even charging for it. And it made me really realize what I was valuing and what I wasn't, and why did I not put a charge on it? Where did I get that idea? It really made me self-inspect. But then I discovered something that was shocking. When I went out and did presentations to public, and I generated new patients, and each case visit average was X, I was able to generate $15,000 an hour. And I was going, whoa, I went to school for nearly 10 years to do this, but that's 1/10 of what that's generating. And that created a paradox in me, because I feel like I should be doing this because I went to 10 years of college for that. But over here is where I'm actually building the business. So what's really priority to me? I really had to juggle with my own identity for a moment, because this is what's making sense and this is what I trained for. And I love doing this, but if I could do this, I could hire somebody to do this. It was creating a quandary in my head. But I did it, and then I reprioritized that list. I reprioritized that entire list based on what produced the most down to least. And I looked at that and I was going, man, there's 5 things that I need to be doing if I want this business to grow. And so I can be inspired by what I'm doing. And I'm doing a lot of stuff that is not priority. And I'm weighing myself down. And while I'm down there, I don't see my vision. I'm too busy doing stuff instead of working on the vision. And Alan McKinsey said that the people at the top of life are visionaries, and they're planning and they're delegating. The people at the bottom are doing. And I was doing a lot of stuff, and I wasn't visioning and planning and delegating. So I went through that and I reprioritized that list. And that was liberating, because then I kind of had a direction, I thought. Then the next column, how much meaning does each of those things have? Because it's one thing to go and serve people and make a great income, but if you're not, money without meaning leads to debauchery, not fulfillment and philanthropy. So I thought, okay, I want to put a meaning column here, and on a 1 to 10 scale, how much meaning does each of these have? And I took the top one, and luckily, I was grateful for this, that some of the things that had the most meaning were also the things that produced most. So the ones that had meaning are the ones I couldn't wait to get up in the morning and do. And they happened to be the ones that were also overlapping with some of the things that actually produced. So I was like, okay, now I'm getting some real good clarity here. This is what I'm inspired to do, and down here is no meaning to me. It's like disengaged. And I realized that, and I reprioritized that entire list based on a 1 to 10 scale meaning. And then I looked at those together. What was the highest meaning? What was the highest producers? And I kind of leaned back and I looked back at that and I go, okay, I've now got a clear direction of where I need to be putting my attention and my focus. My intention and intention needs to develop and grow in that area if I want to be inspired by what I'm doing. I then put the next column down. What is it going to cost me to delegate that? If I actually hired somebody to do it, not just their salaries, because most people think of their salaries, office space usage, equipment, depreciation, parking, insurance, training, lost opportunity, everything. Every cost, nitpicky down to the pencil, the pen, the computer, you name it. What does it cost? And then I made a list of all the costs, and then I reprioritized it according to spread between what produces versus what cost. And I looked at where the spreads were, so I knew where I could make the most out of delegating and versus the least out of delegating. It just so happened that it was a beautiful correlation with meaning and productivity. Mm-hmm. And I was going, this is cool. This is a very productive little exercise. Mm-hmm. And when I got through that, and that was not easy because I had to estimate the best I could of what it would cost. And I got it rounded off pretty good, I think. I then next to that, I put how much time do I actually spend on it? Is this a really full-time job? Is this a part-time job? How much time do I need if I was to delegate this versus me do it? And how much time could I do? And could I hire somebody to actually organize me to go do talks where I can generate? Because if I can generate tenfold, I can pay for all people to do all this. Because delegation requires you going out and doing what's really most meaningful to you to produce the income to pay for the delegation. It never costs to delegate things if it's done properly. It always produces. And the final column was the final prioritization. Take a look at it all, look at all the factors, prioritize it, and I summarized the priorities based on productivity, meaning, everything. And when I got through, I then divided up in layers, sliced up into 10 layers. I don't know why I did that. I just chose to do that. It wasn't anything genius. I just divided up that. And I took that and made a job description out of those things. And then I hired somebody to do the bottom layer. Because I learned that delegation was layered. The very last delegation is the duplication of yourself. Mm-hmm. So I layered it in steps. And I hired somebody to do it. I didn't get the first time. It took me 3 people. So it was on the 3rd hiring that I finally got somebody I could release it. So that taught me a lot about hiring, because if I was going to hire somebody, if they're not inspired and it's not their highest value and they're not engaged, I have to be distracted away from producing my money, doing what I do, and get down and not be inspired again, micromanaging people. And so I had to learn how to get the right person. As Jim Collins says, the right person on the bus, right? And so it took me 3 people to get the first person. And that layer was done, and I immediately felt lighter. I have somebody to do that. I never have to think about it again. Wow. And I got a $20 an hour job off my plate. And I did the next layer. And each layer was a little bit more valuable, and I paid a little bit more for it to get that service. Now I got somebody to take care of all the insurance and all this administration part. And that took me 2 people to do. I got better at the hiring process. I learned about values and the hiring process. I knew about values, but I really now got to apply them finally, and about engagement. And I got that layer done. When I got that layer off, my business went up about 40%, just from those 2 layers, about 40% increase in my business. I'm now able to go out, and I've got more time to do these other things, to research and to do my clinical. And I hired me a doctor. So now I got me a doctor and a couple staff members, and I'm freeing up, and I'm up 40% of my income, and I'm now paying about 10% of the income. So it's like I'm making an extra 30%, 25% profit now. So then what I did is I ended up going layer by layer by layer. In 18 months, my business was 5 doctors, 12 staff members, 10-fold increase in business in 18 months from that process. And now I'm speaking. Those with a mission have a message, sharing the vision, sharing what's possible, having doctors training. So I'm now speaking and training doctors, clinical. I'm now demonstrating it. They're watching. So I'm getting to teach and train, which I love. And I'm freeing it up and rotating the doctors where nobody owns the patients, so they can't take away with the patients. And then I'm prioritizing the patients on the ones that I would absolutely love to work with the most. And when I'm not doing the others, I go to the patients and I work with the highest priority patients. I prioritize the patients. I prioritize what I said to them in response to the common questions. I prioritize procedures. I looked at what was giving me the best result. I kept prioritization, prioritization, prioritization. And my business was freed. And 38 years ago was the last time I ever saw a check from my company. I couldn't tell you what a check from a checkbook looks like, or electronics, because I have not done those things. I've delegated so people can do that, so I can do what I love doing, which is now researching, writing, teaching, traveling when Corona's over, or traveling by Zoom now. And all I can say is, if you're a therapist and you're doing everything, you may consider the delegation process on anything that's not inspiring, because you might leverage grow your business. And now with online, there's no reason why you can't have a global business. There's no reason why you couldn't have a global business with a little bit of administration, a little bit of the getting out there on podcasts, and a little bit of more interaction with the world. Your service deserves to be known around the world, not just locally. So today we have the opportunity to do that same thing that I did and grow it. And it may be step by step, it may be incremental, but there's no limit except what you give it in your mind.
So one of the things you said that really caught my attention, because it's been my experience as well. You basically said that when you went through and really took honest inventory on how you were spending your time and what was producing the most and what was giving the greatest return, that you actually found that the things that you love doing were in fact the things that actually were the greatest producers. That's been my experience as well. Would you say that that's what you see for individuals that are wondering, I wonder if that would happen for me too? Is that what you see?
Yes. And what's interesting is there's just one little switch that I think needs to turn on. And that is, delegating something is for the purpose of you freeing yourself up to do what's higher in priority. It's not an abnegation of material where you now no longer do it. It's you're now freeing yourself up to do something that's even more valuable. Mm-hmm. Because you will raise your self-worth if you do what's higher on your priorities. Mm-hmm. And now you are more valuable. And therefore, when you value yourself, so does the world. Mm-hmm. And I don't know about you, but I know if I was to take any therapist, I'd be willing to bet an honest response would be, I have the most fulfillment when I actually make a true difference in the people's lives that I love touching.
100%. Hands
down. We are all in the business for the tear of gratitude that when we actually see a result in people. Mm-hmm. In fact, I can say in my own life, I've worked with people sometimes, and I've done longer sessions because I didn't feel like I got a result, and I just kept going because I want a result. And I will give it extra time to get that result, to know I've completed that process. And because I want that fulfillment. I don't know how. That's one of the things I'm grateful for the work that I do, is I know I get a result with the processes, and I love getting a completion of a result and knowing that we made a difference in the trajectory of their life, like yourself or other people. So that's what it's about. That's what's fulfilling. And then getting paid to do that and getting to invest in yourself is so important, so important. There's a law of finances. I don't know if you wanted to go off on this, but I'm going to do it.
We were going to get to finances. That was on my list,
I'm
because therapists did not get training in finances, John.
Okay. Well, most likely the therapist will know about the term entropy. And they will know that the universe has the tendency, material objects have a tendency to undergo entropy, and unless you organize things with negentropy. Life physics is negentropic. It's moving from disorder to order. Death physics is entropic. It's going from order to disorder. And anything that you don't organize and prioritize and put your heart and soul into decays. Money is no different. If you don't pay yourself first and put money into assets that grow in value, your money that you earn will end up being eroded by entropy, and they will keep being consumed by unexpected bills that go down in value. And it's just a law. Nobody can violate this law. I've proven this law. Getting people to grasp it and getting to apply it is really very simple. You go to a financial institution, you take your bank account, you open up another account in this institution, and you sign a document that says, I'm now going to transfer money from my bank account into this institution. It's going to be a fixed amount every month, or a percentage, whatever's greater of my total income, and it's done. And you sign it, and it's it, and now it's a bill. And now you're being rewarded. And you build up a cushion of cash in your business to stabilize the business, and then you invest. And you start buying assets. My business growth grew more effectively, more efficiently, the moment I started buying assets and valuing myself, valuing wealth, valuing serving. Huge difference. I'm globally today because of my work. I have the opportunity to work. Today I'm speaking to almost everybody in the music industry that are the major players in the music industry tonight. And I know that would happen only because I've invested in myself and valued myself. Because until you do, they won't. So if you're a therapist, you don't ever want to devalue yourself by paying yourself last. You want to pay yourself first. You don't want to devalue yourself by doing lower priority things, because your self-worth will go down and you'll beat yourself up and you'll be subordinating to other people instead of being yourself. You're not going to be able to help them become authentic and liberate them from their own baggage if you're also not doing that yourself. It's a mastery game. Exactly. And you get rewarded when you actually get authentic.
The more authentic you are.
Every physical symptom, every psychological intuition, every sociological feedback from clients and customers and friends and neighbors, every theological event, all are feedbacks to try to get you authentic and prioritized. I'm absolutely certain about that now. And it's so important to prioritize and value yourself and value priority.
You just touched on something that is often a struggle for a lot of therapists in the industry, which is that a lot of therapists have subordinated or injected the belief that if I make a lot of money, that somehow I am narcissistic, or that's bad, or I shouldn't pay top, or I shouldn't charge top dollar for my service. But the thing that I'm hearing you say that I hope everyone is listening to is it's not just about making money. It's the connection between making money and serving. And I have found in my own life that the more money I make, the more I serve. The more money that I make, the more I can serve. It's not just about how much money can I have in my pocket. It's how much am I valuing myself to charge what I'm worth, because as I do, it makes me want to get out there and provide a greater service.
So true.
More and more and more and more. And I think therapists often are caught in the, I either have to be narcissistic or I have to be altruistic. And they're not understanding that you got to have both. And that's what I'm hearing you say, which is so
Yes,
awesome.
I'd like to elaborate on that because
Okay.
you just summarized it, but I'd like to elaborate just a bit. I was told when I first opened up my practice, spiritual people don't do things like that. They don't charge. That's such CRAP. I just think that that's ridiculous. I actually reframed that, and I hope this is understood. We have what we call a pride side, where we're exaggerating ourselves, inflated, self-righteous, puffed up, and exaggerating who we are. And we also have a shame side, where we minimize ourselves, deflate ourselves, self-righteous, if you want to call it, instead of self-righteous, deflated. Both of those are personas or masks that are covering up our real being. And then we have the center, the authentic self. This is like a pseudo-elevated self-esteem, a pseudo-depressed self-esteem, and the center is the true self-worth. And our true being, our essential being, not our existential personas, but our essential being, is where we are most poised and present and purposeful and prioritized and powerful, productive, and profitable. Whenever we exaggerate ourselves and puff ourselves up, we wake up our narcissistic component, our capitalistic narcissistic component. Whenever we go and put ourselves down, we woke up our altruistic socialistic component. The altruistic component feels guilty. This one feels proud or shamed. And what it does is it wants to sacrifice itself for others, and it gives away things for nothing. Over here, it wants to get something for nothing. So the narcissistic side wants something for nothing. And when it does, it looks down on people, and it doesn't meet customers' needs. It doesn't meet staff needs. It doesn't meet the market needs. And it gets humbled, pride before the fall. And you're trying to get something for nothing, and it doesn't last. You eventually get humbled, and it goes back. Nature forces you back into authenticity. And if you go down and you give away everything for free, and you give something for nothing, you eventually get resentful to that because, you know, I'm working my butt off and I'm not showing anything and I'm devaluing myself, and I get burned out doing that. And eventually you lift it back up again. And you realize that you're undermining your profit margins and you're out of business. So you got to know your margins are. Otherwise you can't do business. It's not fair. So either one of those personas rob you of true being. And nature creates symptoms around that in your business and in your psychology and in your sociology and your physiology to let you know that, to try to get you in a state of equanimity within yourself and an equity between other people, where you're not trying to get something for nothing or give something for nothing. You're trying to have a fair, sustainable exchange, a true transaction that is sustainable. Because when you do a service and they provide exactly what you want for it, and they get exactly what they want, you have the highest probability of wanting to continue going, both doing business. So you have the longest that's intimacy, and you actually have the highest probability of wanting to continue to transact together. So the long-term business growth occurs at authenticity, which happens to be your spiritual path, the authentic path of your own essential being. So spirituality and material mastery are not separated. They're one and the exact same thing. There's no separation. That's why there's no problem. Spirit without matter is expressionless, and matter without spirit is motionless. We must have those mastered together. And somehow that's been skewed by religious dogma and people that don't know how to master their own life or master their own income, coming down and saying things. We haven't actually selected and prioritized who we've been mentored by. We haven't prioritized our mentors in a sense. We've let people that are basically impoverished and have unrealistic expectations on the market, money, and things like that, sometimes be our inculcated ideas, instead of selecting the highest priority people. You know, I set out when I was young to want to master all areas of life. And I've worked at doing that. And I'm inspired by what I do. I've got a global impact on that. I've wake up in original ideas that are serving people. I've built a global business. I've got financial independence. I've got a now global relationship. All areas are totally masterable. And if we apply the principles to do it, we can have an amazing life. But we have to be responsible. And everything that it's going to take is always going to get back to you being authentic. The magnificence of who you are is far greater than any fantasies you'll impose on yourself and any subordinations to the people you'll ever give yourself. So it's nature's trying to get you to stand out, not fit in.
Yes, indeed. So as we're talking about this, we talked about vision originally when we first started this conversation. How would you differentiate vision versus mission? Because you're alluding to mission here in this conversation. How are they the same? How are they different?
Well, the brain has a visual cortex, primary visual cortex in the occipital region, and then it branches and goes into V1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, or whatever, as it comes into the temporal and parietal areas. And all of them are just adding associations from other sensory systems and building composite visual experiences from a primary sensory experience. But your thoughts, your mission, will include the vision. I don't see them as separable. I see them as it's just the visual experience or the visual image you see fulfilling what your mission is. It doesn't have to be really complex differentiation. My mission has been to travel the world and to teach and to research, become a polymathic researcher and learn as much as I can about human behavior and become, qualified in that, and then share that around the world and teach. Really simple. No elaborate thing. That was it. I want to step foot on every country on the face of the earth. I want to share my research findings with people, and I want to inspire people like the man did for me when I was 17. And I wanted to have original ideas by studying the most comprehensive studies I could in the most diverse fields as possible around human behavior and deliver that. So that's that, and I've got a track record showing that that's what's important to me. My life demonstrates it. When you're looking at what your life is committed to, you look at what your life demonstrates. Mm-hmm. My life demonstrates that. I've got if you look at what you spontaneously can't wait to get up in the morning and do, and just keep doing automatically, you just keep doing it. Nobody has to remind you to do it. That's the path. That's where you're going to excel. That's where you're doing what you love doing. And mine is researching and teaching. It's just that simple. And I don't try to waste my time on the other stuff, because that's it. That's what I do. And I want to delegate the rest because I want to get on with doing what I absolutely love to do, because you can't live an inspired life to do it. And if I share that in a way that serves people, there's abundance, there's wealth, opportunities. So my responsibility is to care enough about humanity to do that, and care enough about myself to find that niche so I can go out and deliver it. And it's not for everybody. What I speak about is not about cupcake manufacturing or about car automobile manufacturing. It's about human behavior. So your mission is an expression of what you value most. And your identity revolves around that. And the moment you're taking the most effective and efficient actions and energy in that direction, putting your focus, that visual image, I guarantee, will surface. I have proven that over and over again. Everyone has an inspired vision waiting to emerge the moment you live authentically by priority. I'm absolutely certain that's obtainable. I've done it in the breakthrough experience programs that I've taught. I've done it in one-on-one consulting. And when they get it, people go, whoa. And they get tears in their eyes and they see it. And they get clarity.
That's what happened for me at the very first breakthrough that I attended with you. And I've been to over 30 breakthrough experiences at this point. And every time as you were talking about that fine tuning, just a little bit more fine-tuned, a little bit more fine-tuned, a little bit more fine-tuned. But my first experience with you at the breakthrough, the brain noise was able to shift in such a way where out popped division. And my life changed in that moment.
Exactly. Mine, that's what happened to me. But every time we infatuate with somebody, they occupy space and time in their mind. Every time we resent somebody, they occupy space and time in their mind. And there's noise in the brain. And so the noise in the brain is a feedback to let us know we're not loving, we're not being authentic, we're exaggerating ourselves. Well, we're minimizing ourselves when we're looking up at somebody, and we're exaggerating ourselves looking down on somebody. When we resent somebody, we're too proud to admit what we do. Oh, we don't do that. And over here, we go, oh, I'm too humble to admit I do that. And we're distorting who we are. We have a dysmorphic image of ourselves instead of actually authentic self. And your design not to appreciate the false you. And we label that psychological disorders.
I love that.
We're labeling it a psychological disorder when it's actually a normal, healthy biological feedback to let us know we're not being authentic. That's it.
Yeah.
And the moment we're authentic, those noise goes away and you have a clear consciousness and a lucid consciousness, and you see, and your executive center sees a strategy, and you see things on the way, not in the way.
Mm-hmm.
And all of a sudden you're back on your, you don't have inequities, you have equanimity.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have judgments, you have love.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have desperations, you have inspiration. And there's absolutely no reason why a person can't live that way. I've been studying this for 47, almost 48 years. And there's no doubt in my mind there's a science on how to awaken it. It's just a matter of putting it in operation. And there's work involved, but if you want a quick fix, that's a symptom of not living by what's really valuable to you. Because the people that have a real inspired vision have patience, and they think long term. And they start thinking in terms of what they're going to do on this planet and what legacy they're going to leave on the planet. People who want immediate gratification are not ever going to see that because they're down in their amygdala. The impulsive, compulsive, immediate gratifying, addictive behaviors are compensations for unfulfilled highest values, non-prioritized living, creating symptomatology of extrinsic reasons and sources where you give credit to things and blame to things, and it's all externally driven. It's victim modeled instead of master modeled. And we're not here for being victims of history. We're here to be masters of destiny and create by design, not by live by default. That's the key of our mastery.
Beautiful. So the last topic that I would love for you to touch on, which I think is a great topic for us to end this conversation with, is gratitude. I'd love for you to talk a little bit about the role of gratitude. And even right now, with everything that's going on in the world, and I know that therapists are they're feeling it. They're feeling it. They're very much on the front lines. Their own values and priorities are shifting. It may feel hard. They may be struggling with feeling inspired, not, all of that. With everything that we're talking about, what's the role of gratitude?
Gratitude is the key that opens up the gateway of the heart. Now, we know that there's gut intelligence. We know that there's heart intelligence. And the brain, if you're living in your executive center, you open up the heart intelligence. If you live in your amygdala, you're in the gut intelligence. And the gut is for survival, impulse for food, instinct for predator, prey and predator. The heart is for the inspired vision. So gratitude is the key that opens up the gateway of the heart. And inside the heart intelligence is the key to inspiration. Because what it does, it radiates out. I'm using a metaphor. It radiates out like a light, and it just organizes the brain. The executive center gets a clear, inspired vision. And now you have an inspired vision. Your heart's open. You're grateful. You're seeing the hidden order in the daily chaos because you're asking intuitive questions that bring you into equanimity. And you're becoming fully conscious instead of conscious and unconscious divisions. And all of a sudden, when you do, your body gets filled with this entheos, the divine within. And if you're more of a neuroscientist, we may have a balanced chemistry. That's the neuroscientist perspective. The chemistry comes into balance. The autonomic, sympathetic, and parasympathetic systems normalize. The hypothalamus with the suprachiasmatic nucleus synchronizes all the clocks. The pineal balances out melatonin with day and night. Everything comes into a poised state. When you do, you're not wavering with emotions and uncertainties. You have certainty. And you're not living in past and futures where you store all your subconscious baggage of judgments. You're present. And so you have gratitude, love, inspiration, enthusiasm, certainty, and presence as a result of gratitude. Now, I have a ritual that I do every day. I don't miss a day. And I write down what I have the opportunity to do each day. And you've seen that. And it's 25 volumes of material. And one of the volumes is about that thick. And it's basically, I had the opportunity to be interviewed by Lisa Dion today to speak to therapists around the world. Had the opportunity to speak to musicians around the world today. Had the opportunity to have an amazing conversation with my daughter today. A conversation with a great singer and actress that I work with in Istanbul today already. I write down all the things that I was grateful for that I had the opportunity. When I concentrate on what I had the opportunity to do and fill my day and metric what I'm grateful for on a daily basis, it increases the probability of me staying centered and focused. I have more gratitudes to look at, so I get reminded of what I did and didn't ignore it. I'm getting feedback that I'm doing a service, and I'm now documenting what I'm getting back from it because I'm getting gratitude, thank yous, and things in the emails. And it builds momentum to go to bed in a clear mind, to wake up with an inspired start on the day. So I think that's the way to end the day and start the day. So I'll sit and lay in bed sometimes in the morning and run through a series of statements that I have to myself about how I'm clear about what I want in life, and ask what's the highest priority actions I can do today to help me fulfill my mission on earth, and think about what I'm grateful for. And it starts the day. And if you fill your day with the highest priority actions that inspire you, that you're grateful for, your day doesn't fill up with low priority distractions at all. And your day is changed. Because it's not about, we have control over our perception, decisions, and actions in the world. So it has nothing to do with what happens out there. It's all of our perceptions of what happens, our decisions are what we decide to do with it, and the actions we take. So we're never victims of what's out there, in my opinion. We're simply learning how to master whatever happens. How do we use it to our greatest advantage? How is it on the way, not in the way? So we have something to be grateful for every day.
What you just said right there, that last statement, was one of the most profound learnings from you in my life, which was the recognition that most people, when they say thank you, they're saying thank you for the things that they perceive are supporting their values, and they're not seeing the wisdom in the challenges. Would you, just so that that's part of the gratitude conversation, would you speak a little bit to that too?
Yeah, I like to differentiate a superficial gratitude from a deep and inspiring grace. And I don't mean to be religious, because it doesn't have to be religious. It could be just humanistic. But grace is when superficial gratitude is when things are going your way. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. You know, you're doing what I want. Thank you. And it's kind of like a hedonistic pursuit. But grace is when all of a sudden you realize the thing that challenged you, you dug deeper and you go, oh, wow, now I see why that's in my life and what that's doing for me. And you have a tear of gratitude, realizing it's the very challenges that make you go back onto priority. See, people want success and they want to avoid failure. And that's an amygdala thinking. But to realize that success is a depurposing thing that actually makes you go to lower priority things because you're proud. And failure is a repurposing thing because you go into shame and you go back to priority. So it's the challenges and sometimes the criticisms in your life that make you go back and innovate and come up with creative ideas and make you go to the next level. So when you can finally embrace both support and challenge, praise and reprimand, ease and difficulty, and all other complementary opposite pairs of opposites at the same time, you wake up a true grace, a true gratitude that is deep and is the seeing of the hidden order instead of living in the apparent chaos. The chaos is a result of striving for a one-sided life. In Buddhism, the Buddha says the desire for that which is unobtainable and the desire to avoid that which is unavoidable is a source of human suffering. And we're trying to get a magnet and separate the poles of a magnet, get only the one side and try to get rid of the other side. And we're trying to do that on ourselves, and we're trying to get rid of half of ourselves and expect to love ourselves. We're trying to get rid of half of other people and expect to love them. Trying to get rid of our half of our life and try to expect to love life instead of embrace the whole. See, I consider myself a hero and a villain, a saint and a sinner, a virtue and a vice. I have all pairs of opposites inside me, and I have no desire to get rid of any of them. And that's liberating. And that allows you to have a grace state because you realize that no matter what you've done or not done, you're still worthy of love.
Yeah. So beautiful. John, thank you so much for your wisdom and for your time. And thank you for helping me get in touch with my own authenticity, truly.
No, thank you for doing it,
yeah.
living it.
So I have no doubt that this conversation is going to impact many of the people that are listening. And authenticity, authenticity, authenticity. Everything's a feedback, getting us back to ourselves. So beautiful.
Yeah, it's the magnificent universe, I call it.
Yes. Well, thank you, John, so much.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you for the time and
Look forward to
the message.
seeing you again when that happens.
Thank you, everybody. Whoever's listening, thank you.
Yeah. Bye-bye.